Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to RawKnux podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe.
You are a rebel.
Yeah, he's like, I'm either playing hockey or playing the drums.
Yeah, well, and Tim, and drums play in communist regime, they would also tell you what songs you have to play. So,
when I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town.
Petra Svoboda, thank you for coming on. Yeah, it's so awesome to have you. I've been waiting for this one. I've had Chelly, I've had a few other my teammates, and I'll never forget the day you walked into the locker room and I was in there. You came in, you had a jean jacket on, you had blue jeans on, something that I guess you couldn't get in Czechoslovakia at the time. But you look like this new, young, free man. I'm there. This kid, and again, you didn't have much weight on you or much muscle at the time. You were 17 years old. And honest to God, I said to myself, this kid's going to get fucking killed out here. But yeah, I guess I want to go back, Pete, and talk about before you came to Montreal, what it was like growing up behind the Iron Curtain in a communist country, and how difficult that was on your mom and dad and you and your brother.
Well, it was, Chris, it was a very different time, as you know. Some ways, communism was a horrible thing. You guys probably just heard about it, but, you know, it was an idealistic idea that basically did not make you have your own belief. So if you did not follow the rules and regulations of the government, you were marked guy, or, you know, there was no freedom. And I was lucky to be pretty good in hockey, and I started to travel in the Western countries like Germany and, you know, Sweden and all that stuff from a very young age. And I saw the difference. So the only lucky thing during the communism was that they allowed you to play sports, and lots of it, you know. So the sports schools was one of the motivation, but how to keep people quiet and everything else. And so I take a full advantage of that. So I kind of was lucky because my family was very much from the beginning. My father was a soccer player. My brother was 6 years older. He played hockey. I did not like hockey very much in the beginning. You know, my mother put me in the music and school much more and everything else.
What did you play in music? What did you play?
Guitar, until I realized my fingers were too short. So, you know, they told me you should start drumming. So, you know, eventually I followed my brother's steps, and at age 10, I started to really focus and start playing, which was fairly late. So what I would say is that my escape during the time before I made that decision.
I don't want to get to the escape yet. I want to get, you know, I want to get to what. Huh?
How did I do at school? Great.
Yeah.
Until I started playing hockey.
Can you, still play the drums? Do you still play the drums?
Yeah, I should have.
I want to get to, because me growing up here, growing up in Boston, and my father was a military guy, and I remember seeing on the TV all the time, Russia, bad Russia, see the Red Square with all the missiles and the big parades and everything, and how bad Russia was. I also saw, every night in the news, they would show the bread lines, you know, big line to go get a loaf of bread. Where over here, we walk in the store, you buy 10 loaves of bread. It wasn't a big deal. What was that like for mom and dad, like growing up, like feeding their family? Was it as bad as it was portrayed over here? Was that all propaganda?
Well, I will explain it to you this way, Chris. When I look at youngsters nowadays here and how the world is developed, and I think we're living the easiest lives ever. You know what I mean? People don't know how to cook anymore. You just, and dial of your finger, you just ordering home. You know, I don't think there's too many wives. They don't know where a kitchen is. You know what I mean? So it's not, I know we're 2023, so I don't want to offend anybody, but it was a very different time. And what I learned from my parents, how difficult it was. But to be honest, they were such a great parents that I never knew we had no money or needs. Like obviously I've seen my parents my mom especially standing in line for a lot of things. When we get bananas, then when we get just a certain amount of fruit, let's say for 2 weeks a year, it was special and we enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And it was difficult, but at the same time it was real. So like I cannot even imagine really how difficult it was for my parents.
Okay.
Were you at a young age like always thinking trying to like I want to get out of here?
From very young age, I was lucky. My father was a great guy. Like as I said many times, the luckiest day of my life was when I had when my parents delivered me, and I was really in a great household. My parents were a great couple. They basically never made me feel like I was missing on anything, and they've really allowed me from very young age to be them. They allowed me to have my free speech. My father always encouraged me to. My lesson from my dad was always, he told me, be proud of people who know how to do things well, watch them and try to do the same. You know what I mean? Never be jealous of people who are successful. So those were my lessons. And my mother was an incredible hard worker. I remember like her getting up at 5 a.m., taking a tramway, which was like the old trolleys. I'm sure you guys see them in Europe, for 45 minutes. Work until 5:30, then go grocery shopping, make sure that we have our dinner ready and everything else. So it was a household where we really helped each other, and it was great. So like as much as I could have complained, thanks to my parents, it was a time that I really learned a lot. But to answer your question, yes, as soon as I could, I knew I would have been out of there, because I was one of those free-minded individuals from a very young age. I did not believe in the rules like RawKnux at times, the rules that make no sense. Let's put it this way, you know what I mean? I was a good listener to people who I knew were real, but if I knew that you were part of my language full of shit, I was not listening. So that was my experience.
You grew up in Most, Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
Most.
Yeah.
Was it an urban community, rural? What type of community?
Chris, I wish I could take you there, and hopefully one day if we make a trip to Europe, we need to go visit so you can see it for yourself. So listen to this. I was born in Most, right? Because Litvinov was about 10 miles away from Most. And everybody who was living in Litvinov was born in Most, because we had no hospital that you can be delivered, right? So my mother had to take the trip with me to go deliver. But in between those two small cities, there was a chemical factory that was, you would not believe, like the trees grew only halfway, you know what I mean? There was so much chemical coming out of that and everything else, so for sure it was not good for people. But at the time, there were no rules and regulations, you know what I mean? So that's where I grew up, and it was a town where not very pretty. But the only thing they could have done, where we were lucky, that they created at least the tennis courts, great arena, great sports schools. You know what I mean? So it was some of the outlets that we could have that you would forget what you're living next to. And keep you humble and make you realize when you see all those people struggling and on a daily basis how lucky we were just to play the game and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But overall, as Tim asked me if I thought from very young age to be out of there, yeah, it was an easy decision for me.
So growing up, minor hockey, did they have like Pee-wee, Bantam, stuff like that? Or what did they call it over there?
Yeah.
Was it Pee-wee?
Basically, they had sports schools, which they were really great success during the communist regime, for a great success. Out of the small country in Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia at the time, there was a lot of great hockey players, a lot of great tennis players, and a lot of soccer players and everything else, because that was the real clear motivation for young people to get out and to see the world. You know what I mean? So the motivation was extraordinary, to put it in words. You know what I mean? So yeah, there were sports schools where we were lucky that we had a lot of great coaching as well, a lot of great mentors, because, like, you have to work within the country, so you really need to create your own fun, Chris,
Yeah.
So there was very few distractions. You really find a team spirit, and I was lucky that that the old town Litvinov, where I came from, I believe at one point in 10 years, there was 15 or 16 NHL guys from a small town. When we won the Olympics with the Czech national team in '98, there was 9 of us from the small town. You know what I mean? So it shows you that if you have good mentoring and the time to develop, you can create a lot of great players.
So growing up, who was some of those stars you looked up to as a Czechoslovakian kid growing up there? Like, did you know anything of the NHL, or did you just look at world championships like Russia, Germany, stuff like that? Who were the stars you looked up to?
Well, I was lucky. Again, in that little town, we have a guy named called Ivan Hlinka. He eventually, in a late age, came and played for Vancouver Canucks. He was a really colorful guy. He was a guy who was extremely, he had a great charisma. So he was playing in my town, and we all follow his leads. There was also Yuri Bubla, who also came in Vancouver and played for a while. So I've seen those guys every day, every game they played. You know what I mean? So that was my motivation aspect. And then internationally, I follow obviously the World Championships. About NHL, we had no idea because it was not televised or not even talked about. But at one point, about 2 years or 3 years before I make that decision to defect, the Szczesny brothers came into Quebec. And basically there was this station, it called Europe 2, that we, not legally, but we could really actually listen to it. So there was a lot of interviews from those guys, and a lot of stories and everything else. So I've heard many of those, you know what I mean? So I can start to some way start to picture how it could be.
Did those Czech players that you were looking up to, that, I mean, did you, they probably had to do the same thing you did, right? Like
Yeah, well, I was the first guy, Tim, who was very young to make that step, so before me, I think there was Nedomansky about 10 years prior. Then there was the Szczesny brothers, the 2 of them, then Miro Fricher. And I was about a 5th guy, but I was the first one who was extremely young, before I could be drafted.
It's funny. I remember those times, and I remember we had a team meeting in Calgary once, and it was probably around '82, and there was talk of the Russians coming over and the Eastern Europeans coming over and playing the NHL, right? And the Stassies were already there, but they were talking about, and they were Czechs, obviously Slovaks, but they were talking about, okay, Russians are going to start to come now. And I remember the meeting because everybody was like, no, we don't want the Russians over here. We want to save our jobs. But when you look at it and the way the league expanded, the league couldn't survive without that now. But I remember when the talk first started about that. So you're playing now. You play minor hockey. You come up. When does it start to become apparent that you're, people are looking at you to play on the national team? The younger national teams.
Well, it started fairly early, Chris, because I was playing the U20s, the World Championships, as we know, at a very young age. I believe I was 15 when I played the first one. The second I was 16, so I was still about 2 years before the draft, where I could be drafted. And there were always already at that time scouts from North America, and it was funny because he was a guy that me and you both admired a lot was Claude Ruel. He was the scout for the Canadians, and he through translators and everything else, we ran into me at the hotel and they were saying that they would have some interest and everything else. So that was the first time where I got the idea of maybe have a chance to play in the best league in the world. But to be honest, the way I was thinking is that I was defecting no matter what, even if I would have to just work somewhere, or if I would be playing in Germany or anywhere else in Europe. I just did not agree with the system. So for me, it was a clear understanding that I am not going back.
You are a rebel.
Yeah, he's like, I'm either playing hockey or playing the drums.
Yeah, well, and Tim, and drums and play in communist regime, they would also tell you what songs you have to play. So, I mean,
so you go and you're playing in the World Championships, right? Under 18, right?
Yeah.
The World Championships in West Germany.
Yeah.
So before you get there, what happens and how do you get the message? Who gives you the message that, hey, Peter, after that game, take a shower, throw your clothes on, and get the hell out of there? Who delivers you that message the first time?
Well, you got to like this. As soon as we were obviously taking a bus from Prague, and I was the older guy because I was already playing the U20s. And so we were playing some cards on the back of the bus, and as soon as we passed the control from east to west, I opened up the little window and I took one of my. During the communist regime, you had like another you have passport, but then you have like this communist book that you always have to introduce yourself everywhere by.
The manifesto.
Yeah, the manifesto, something like that. Yeah. So as soon as we passed the thing, I opened the window and I said, "Guys, look," and I threw it out, and they had no idea why I did that, right? So I could not tell anybody because you never knew at the time. We always had the one guy traveling with us who would inform, and he will not allow you to cross the border. And I basically played the whole tournament. I think we finished second, or we won it, I think. And as everybody celebrates, I really quickly took shower, and I just, my aunt was living in Munich at the time. So I was hoping that somehow I'm going to get to Munich to her and everything else. But as I'm walking out, and I took my gear and I'm walking out and everything else, I ran into one of the ex-players that you might also knew, Tim, you play in Europe, Eric Kinakel. His son is playing he was playing in the league for Pittsburgh as well. And Eric was actually living in Germany for many years, and he was a really big star down there. So when I saw him, he says hello to me, and I told him exactly what I am doing, and he goes, "Okay, come with me." So
what you told him what you were doing, you were going to leave.
I'm leaving. I'm not going back. So he says, "Okay, come with me." So he hosted me at his house for a few days. Then I got in touch with my aunt, and then we started process. I had to wait for about 2 months before I was able to be drafted. That was I think I defected in February, and the draft was in June.
Yeah.
So
no one, Peter, no one from the Canadians got to you before that and said anything. So you just defected on your own.
On my own, Chris. So there was no plan. There was no commitment from either NHL team. As I said to you prior, I was staying no matter what. I would have played in Germany, or I would play in any European leagues. So Eric helped me for the first week. Then eventually I stayed with my aunt in Munich for about 2 months. But soon as the word came around that I defected, about 3-4 days later, Eric gave me a phone number to the guy who was coaching in Germany, a guy named Craig Sarner out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he basically said, I would like to represent you. I would like to be your agent, and vice versa. And he started the process. So about 4 to 5 days later, a lot of the NHL team were coming to Germany to meet with me. And I remember Cliff Fletcher. There was a lot of those guys, Lunani, and they were coming, and they were extremely nice. They knew that they couldn't guarantee that I will go play for them, but they understood the human story, and they basically all giving me money, to make sure I'm okay. And at one point, I realized that I had close to $70,000 from these people. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, they were nice. They were extremely nice. And I was not, I couldn't speak English at the time, so I was represented by this guy with a translator, but they were just extremely positive and extremely nice. So during that time, I basically had my agent to do my representation. And then about a week before the draft, Chris, he told me, get ready, we're flying to Montreal. And I go, okay, like I figured that I will go to New Jersey maybe, because they were like number 2, I think. Toronto was number 4. They had interest and everything else. And he goes, yeah, I made it. This is going to be great for you. You're going to Montreal. And I did not ask any more questions. So I got on a plane, and I landed in Montreal in Mirabel at the time. And who waited for me in the big stretch limo was Jacques Lemaire.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jacques was there.
Yeah, only Jacques was there waiting for me, which was, like I had no idea who he was at that time.
Did he have a translator?
No.
Geez, this is funny. I'm so glad I've had you, because, I've always heard the story that, the story that was out there was that Serge and them set it all up with you, and after the game, you showered, ran up, got in the car, and jumped in a plane and came to Montreal. So that's the story that's out there, and it didn't happen that way.
No. So
was Eric part of the plan, or did you just run into him?
Who? No, I just ran into him. He was not part of the plan.
Wow.
So when after you showered after that game,
yeah.
Okay. You made your mind up, you're leaving. So you just bumped into Eric?
I bumped into Eric because I had about 150 francs with me. Yeah. So I knew that will get me from Lanzhou to Germany somehow. You
were going to get to your aunt's house.
And hopefully she would follow up and help me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as I'm walking, then I bump into Eric and the guy, Craig Sarner, who said right away, come, we will take care of you, and So I stayed there for about maybe 10 days, Chris.
Yeah.
And they fed me. They kept me at their house. They made me feel really like at home, and that's how it all started. Yeah.
That takes a lot of balls to do what you did.
Did you have to get all new equipment, hockey equipment?
No, I had it with me. That's the only that I do. Now when I'm saying that, they're probably going to charge me. They're going to bill me for it. You know what I mean?
So you hop in the limo, and it's Jacques Lemaire. Does he have an interpreter?
No.
So what's that like? The two of you just like looking at each other.
We'd be sitting in this big limo, and he's he's looking at me with a smile, and I'm smiling back, and we try to just mimic with our hands. You know what I mean?
And when I was in Russia, we would do that. I would talk English, and they would talk Russian, and there would be nothing would happen.
So you had the same experience that time. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I was sitting in this limo, and the 45 or 50 minutes must have been fairly long for Jacques. You know what I mean? So yeah. But you gotta like this. Don't interrupt me, Chris. You gotta laugh at this.
Go, baby, go.
So we get to Ritz Carlton. Jacques checks me in.
Beautiful hotel.
Yeah, I'm amazing. Like I'm saying, wow, this is not bad. And they said to me through a translator. They already had a translator. They said, please be ready for 7 p.m. for dinner. The management wants to meet you. So I go, okay, no problem. So I go there. It's 7 o'clock. I was early, you know what I mean, because I was, excited about who I gonna meet and all that stuff. And I'm sitting all the way up on the top floor. There was a terrace, Chris. We were there a few times.
Yeah.
And I hear people laughing and talking, and so I go, here they come. So as they walked in, I see how frozen they were in their face when they saw my size. He was Serge, he was Ronald Curry, all those guys. They were like, holy shit, this guy is 165 pounds. They were exactly what you saw when I come into the dressing room. They were thinking
shocked.
exactly the same thing. They were probably calling Claude Ruel and saying to him, what's wrong with you?
What are you, blind in one eye?
Yeah, exactly.
And he was blind in one eye, Tim.
Yeah. So that was my first introduction to Serge and Ronald Curry, and Andre Boudria was there as well at the time, so, and Jacques was there. So he probably told them that please do not tell him anything about his size right from the beginning. And, so.
So did they have an interpreter? Yeah.
Yeah, they did. At the time, there was a guy who was translating for me.
I was going to say, up to this point, have you had any communication with like your parents or anybody back home?
You know what? I did not. I wrote them letters. I was not sure if they will receive it or not. You know what I mean? They did not for a while, but there was Eric Kinhackle knew someone how to get in touch, and they basically knew that I was okay. Yeah.
So now the draft is coming in June, and did you get any indication that evening at dinner that we're for sure going to take you?
Yeah, they told me for sure they're taking me. They were only afraid if someone will find out. Basically, what Serge did, he brought me into Montreal, and everybody else lost in touch with me. So they were not sure if I gonna go back, if I went back or not. You know what I mean? So they were fairly sure that if no one takes me before them, that they will draft me. Yes.
Yeah. Well, they had the 5th pick, and listen, no one was going to pick you over Lemieux.
No.
Because he was picked first that year.
No.
And then it was Muller, Olczyk, and Iafrate. Now, Serge, well, obviously he kept that quiet that you were there, but you didn't go to the draft. Or you were hiding, weren't you, somewhere? And they produced you and
They basically make me. I was just staying in the room in Montreal, and the day of the draft, I forgot the gentleman's name. He was working with Serge for a long time. He basically picked me up. He
Ron Caron?
No, you would not know. Like he was around only for a while.
Okay.
And I think it was Serge's friend more than anyone else. Because I think also Serge wanted to keep it quiet from the media here, now that I understand that. So he took me right next door to the Ritz-Carlton and got me a suit, and he says, let's go. We're going to the draft. So.
Throw this suit on. And
yeah, very nice one, though. He was an expensive suit, I know that for fun.
So was it the draft then? Because I didn't even know about the draft. Christ, when I was a kid, I didn't have a clue what it was or anything. Were you sitting like with other guys there that were going to be drafted, like Mario Lemieux? Was he there?
Chris, it was pretty much the way it was, the way it is now already in the '84. Like it was a full arena. The tables were on the floor, and they basically kept me. I don't know what time it was, but it was like early in the day. And they kept me in the dressing room, and as soon as the 4th choice was made, they brought me out through the old tunnel, the one with the exit sign that you broke about 18 times a year, me included. Yeah.
So, how nervous were you? How nervous were you? Like, yeah, this is going to happen. How excited, nervous, all that. Sitting in that room waiting.
Like when I go back to it, I probably for sure I was a bit nervous and everything else, but it was just like so much and the same time that I don't think that you even realize what was happening. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, I don't know if you should find a picture of me when they brought me out.
What a story, though. I mean, if I went like 100 yards from my house without my cell phone, I'd have like a panic attack. It's like, what a story.
I think I was lucky. I started to get panic attacks only later on in life. You know what I mean? I didn't know what panic attacks were at the time.
So up to this point, Peter, did you have any regret? Like, were you ever thinking like, shit, I shouldn't have done this? Like, I should be back home?
Not once. Like once you make a decision, and then it was not a decision that I made for benefits of getting rich or playing in the best league. I really did it because the communist regime did not agree with me, and there was many reasons for that. I see people getting suffocated, the very intelligent people, if they were doctors or whatever profession, and you basically were living on the borders that your neighbor was rotting on you. You know what I mean? It was just like either it was really, you suffocated there. So I never really, not once, I had a regret. For me, I was always born this way. It was a new challenge. It was something that I wanted to do, something to experience, and so the fear factor was not existing at that time for me.
So Pete, you defect.
Yeah.
You get drafted. Before you left, did you ever discuss this with mom and dad and your brother?
I did only mention it to my father because I knew my mother would not be able to handle it because we were very
What did your father say?
He supported me in it. He goes, you know what? I don't.
That had to be such an emotional moment, saying, "Dad, I'm going to leave."
It was because I come from very extremely close-knit family, right? So you would figure that I would stay home just for the benefit of to stay home around them and everything else. Yeah. But when I was making that decision, Chris, it was not based on my selfishness. But it was really, I was so lucky to have a father who had an open mind and he understood it. And he would have probably done it the same way and his age if he could have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we had that conversation, I remember exactly when that was. It was after the World Junior Championships in Sweden when I came back home for 2 months. And then I went to play the 18-year-old. So as we're driving from the airport where he picked me up, I said to him, Dad, the next time around, I'm not coming back.
What did he say?
He was fairly quiet for a while, and he goes, listen, I don't blame you. I'm supporting you in your thing, but you cannot tell this to anyone because you will, as I knew. And I said to him, I cannot even say this to my mom because I knew that she will not be able to handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she would have had a hard time, right?
I said, could you please take care of her when this will happen? And if everything works out the way it's supposed to, we will see each other again. You know what I mean? So that's how I left it.
That's incredible. And we'll get to that part when you see each other again because it was fucking so emotional and so cool. I was there, Tim, and we'll get to it.
Wow.
But what you leave now, you're here, you get drafted. What happens to mom and dad? What happens to dad? Dad was coaching hockey in Czechoslovakia, right? At the time? He was very involved.
He was the manager of the professional team with, Ivan and all that stuff. So he was he had a great job. As soon as they find out that I defected, they both lost their jobs immediately. Yeah.
So when your parents lose their jobs, how do they survive now moving forward? And your brother, obviously. How do your parents put food on the table? How do they pay their bills? So what goes on there?
They were lucky to have enough to survive the first 3-4 months, and then when I got my signing bonus, when I signed with Montreal, you're going to like this one here as well. You can ask Serge about that. So we go to the RBC Bank near to the old forum, you know what I mean? And I think I got 100,000 signing bonus or something. So after tax, you get
100,000. Good for you.
Yeah,
I got 7,500.
I signed a very good deal there. You know what I mean? Because
He went through a lot to get to that bonus, Chris, right?
Yeah, but I didn't hold on to the money for long either. So just listen to this. So Serge is proud. He's bringing me to the RBC bank, and he's saying, like, kid, you have like 51,000. There's a bank card. When you go into this, don't be surprised when money comes out of the wall. He was making fun of me. So I said to him, don't worry, just leave 2,000 and the rest I need to send it to my parents. And he goes, hold on, you're going to need to have some money to live on. I said, I know, I'm going to get a paycheck eventually, because I talked to my agent at the time already with translator. So I was fortunate enough that I could send them the money. So, my first signing bonus went absolutely to them. And, at the time, dollar compared to the Czech crown, whatever it was like a lot. So that made me feel right away comfortable, because I knew that they were
okay, financially.
Exactly. So, so that's how they survive it from then on, so.
If you're like me and you're going to play some golf this summer, you have to check out this hidden gem. Windmill Heights sits atop the beautiful hills in Notre Dame de Il Perrot. They have affordable rates, and they offer customized membership opportunities for all levels. If you want to book a tee time, call 514-453-7177. Hit them straight. If you love your pet like I love my St. Bernard Adele, you'll want to feed them a balanced, biologically appropriate raw diet. The reason I've chosen Formula Raw is because all blends of their food are locally sourced, and they consist of exclusively human-grade meat and organs, as well as fruits and vegetables. And all products used are hormone and antibiotic free. So like I said, if you love your pet like I love Adele, you choose Formula Raw. Make sure you go to formularaw.com and use the promo code RawKnux at checkout to receive 10% off your first order. That's RawKnux, RawKnux.
You drafted. Now it's coming to training camp. Did that first training camp, and again, I don't remember exactly the first time you stepped on the ice. I remember the first time you stepped in the locker room with the jean jacket and the jeans, and I'm looking at you, I'm going, God, this kid's going to get fucking killed. Here's another one I'm going to have to protect. So, but Peter, and I told this to Tim, we were talking about you as a player, and I said, one thing about Peter, yeah, he was small, skinny kid when he came in, but he could be a prick. And he I'm sure he was scared at times playing in Boston the first time, small rink, all these fucking idiots chasing him down. But I told him the story. Once you kind of got comfortable and you knew guys around you were going to be there for you, you also stood up for yourself. And I remember the night you hit someone in the corner. Miller was battling for the puck, and then he came back to the front of the net, and he had given you a shot earlier in the shift, and he fell in front of the net, and you come in and fucking cross-check Jay right in the fucking neck and head from behind, and he went down. And I was sitting on the bench. I'm there, holy shit. I was shocked. And I just thought that was such a display of courage on your part for being a small kid, I just couldn't believe it. And you played with that edge. You had that edge. What was it like, that first training camp for you? Like coming in and all of a sudden, here I am, Montreal Canadian. What was that like? And you weren't bilingual yet either. You had a few words here and there, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I had a summer here where I tried to learn as much as I could, but I was still extremely limited. So, I know that I was living with Serge for the first month and a half after the draft with his children.
Yeah,
and
Junior and Marco.
Yeah, Junior, Marco, and Katu and all that. And I remember him telling them something in the car, and I kind of tried to start to understand. please do not show him any of the videos of the fighting and everything else because all that crap, you know what I mean? But kids are kids, so they show it to me anyways. They were telling me what the media was saying, that I will not survive 1 year in the league, how small I am and everything else. And Chris, to be honest, like I was a small guy. I was 18 years old. I was getting into my, getting through my puberty.
Your balls were dropping. Okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, as you know,
big
you should
balls
not look there anyways. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I was not afraid. But one thing I was not. It's not. I was a fighter, never. But I never back up from anyone. What's the worst thing happens to you? You get beat up or you get hit. You know what I mean? So. That's something that I never had in me to begin with, even from when I play in Europe, you know what I mean? So I remember the first game I played in a men's league as a 15-year-old, and I actually have to protect my brother, who was 6 years older, you know what I mean? So, but with your help, I remember like when we play Hartford, Tim, you're going to like this one here. And guy named Pat Boutet, and what was the other guy's name? The guy without
Torrey Robertson? No,
Lemlin. You fought him also in the bar one time, Chris.
Lumley.
Yeah, sorry. So-called these two tough guys. They were not tough, you know. Like Pat Boutet was also like, but they tried to bully me down. Chris is standing next to me, and Pat Boutet is going, you fucking commie, I will fucking, you will not touch the puck tonight, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And Chris is standing next to me, and he goes, what did you say? Next thing I know, Pat Boutet fucking bleeding. Guess what? I never see Pat Boutet and Lemlin ever again after that. You know what I mean? I said, fucking, Chris Dunn is a great guy, but no. Chrissy was one of the best teammates, one of the best people I ever met in my life. So,
I appreciate that, Pete.
No, that's factual. I remember also Chrissy when you got traded because of Puddinghead and all those people around here.
Yeah,
and we had that goodbye party in Wandes.
Oh fuck!
And I remember a lot of guys crying.
Yeah, he loved you, Chris, even though it took him probably 5 years to understand you.
You
know what? Still don't understand him yet.
I was with Chrissy for so long, Tim, that I almost had, in a few words, I had Boston accent.
Yeah,
Oh, God, we have fun. I was telling Tim earlier about we lived in the same building, and you were with Shelley down, Alexis Neon, and you know, I was upstairs, probably on the 25th floor, and you guys were on like 17. And Shelley would say, come and watch a hockey game tonight. I come down, I walk in, there's all women everywhere. And that was the night you drank the big glass of vodka and got sick, remember?
No, I forget. How could I remember it?
It was so funny. We were doing shots of vodka. Peter said, this is how we drink over there. He took a big glass like that and boom.
That's how Chris got me into trouble. Thing, guys, these times are gone because, Tim, just think about it. We were living about 3 minutes. I'd say 50 meters from the old forum. And I was late for the practice the next day, so it was a good night.
We had some fun.
How did you adjust to the actual city? What was your thoughts right when you came there?
You know what? It was amazing. Like the team of players and the guys in the dressing room. It was a blessing for me as an 18-year-old. You know, when you're 18 and you get money, and at the time, like I signed a fairly good deal, and you know, all of a sudden, without playing the first game, people telling you, "Oh my God, this is this guy," and then. But with the characters like Larry Robinson, Chrissy, Bob Gainey, Steve Schott, Pierre Mondu, I can name most of them. They were like, all of a sudden, I have 19 fathers, you know what I mean? Because they understood my age, they understood where I was at, and they extended themselves to the point where you will never forget that. And that I really truly believe when you make a choice in life and you bet on yourself, and by me coming to Montreal in the dressing room and the way they were humble, we had guys at the time who won eight, nine Stanley Cups. They didn't have to do any of that. But what I learned the first, if something needed to be done, they would be the first one to do it.
So
That's-
so
very
Peter,
fortunate.
yeah, you were fortunate, and you left, you lived with Serge, you lived with the Wilson family for a while, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I want to get to the part where, because I don't remember the exact year and how many years it was since you saw your mom, but I remember going to the airport with you when your mother got off the plane. I was in tears. I could not believe what an emotional moment. It was honestly, it was one of the most emotional moments I've been around in my life. And to see that, you meeting your mom, like you kept it from your mom, you were defecting, you end up leaving, she must have been devastated to think, I'm never going to see my son again. And then that day at the airport, how cool was that?
It was amazing, Chris. You know what? I didn't hear what really happened to her after I left because my father and they obviously kept it from me. She almost had like a mental breakdown. Like her not knowing. So they need to put her on pills. They needed to put her on a lot of different things, and they kept it away from me until even when I saw her, we never really come up. And basically, it was incredible. I always was hoping and believing that we will get reunited and all that stuff, but there was never guarantees. You know what I mean? So obviously, the best way was that I find you guys here. I was very busy with to make the team and all the new stuff that you need to learn, the language and all, But as I said, it was, I cannot put it in words. The day when Serge told me, oh my God, I can get them here. I couldn't believe it until I saw them. So, and you were with you.
How
were
long?
part of
How
that.
long? That's so cool. How long did they stay?
They stayed for about 2 weeks. They let them come in, I believe, one at a time. There was a guy, the Minister of Sports in Canada, named Otto Jelinek, who was a figure skater, and he somehow got them before the wall came down. He somehow get them one at a time here, also with extremely great help from Serge and Ronald Corey and the organization here for sure.
Yeah, that is so cool, right? To be able to reunite like it did. And honestly, for me to be part of that and see that, it was just incredible. So, so here you are, that young kid come over here, play with the Habs for 8 seasons. And then in that 91 season, 92 season, my last year of hockey was your last year with the Canadians. What happened there, and when it came time to get traded? What were you surprised? Did you feel betrayed? What were your feelings around the trade to Buffalo?
You know what, Serge? Chris, what happened is that you got traded. Chris Chelios got traded, and things start to change. The guys that I play with for 8 years, the chemistry was going away, right? So Serge offered me a really good deal for 3 or 4 more years, and at the time I was young. I was maybe stubborn or proud or whatever it was, and I basically did not want to stay any longer. You know what I mean? Was there a lot of reasons? No. I think the disappointment of all these trades that I took it to personally, probably.
Yeah.
It affected me much more than it should. And I remember the conversation we had with Serge several times because I was really close to him. He obviously was the guy who gave me the chance, the opportunity, let me stay in his house. And I was saying no to him, and he was offering me extremely good money for extra 4 more years. You know what I mean? And do I regret it? Was I surprised? No, because I asked for it. Do I regret it? No. because once you make that decision, you go. And at that time, there were things that happened that I did not agree as a player, and maybe like we learn as we go older. I just made a decision and I stick by it. You know what I mean? So when I got traded to Buffalo, it was not the best city or whatever.
The grass wasn't greener.
No, it was not. But I still play for another, I believe, 10 years. So I enjoyed it. Buffalo, I enjoyed Philly, I enjoyed Tampa. You know what I mean? So it was fun.
What was it like for you personally to win a Stanley Cup? Was that something you dreamed of?
It was incredible. It was my second year, and with the guys to just see the journey, and you're still learning so much. You're only second year in your league, you know what I mean? Then we went to the finals in '89. I was hoping for another one, and then I got to the finals also with Philly in '98, I believe. And you never win it again. So, but living in Montreal, as you know, we know it's just a mega for hockey, and just like the way they love the game, it's incredible, and it was extremely a lot of fun. But the friendships and the first 8 years where we were not making that kind of big money. My second half of the career, we started to make a lot more. And there was many flights coming back. My second half of the career, where I was thinking, like, I would rather return the money and go back to where we were before, because it was so much more fun. You know what I mean? So, So it was amazing. We all three of us know how difficult it is to win it and everything else. But there was a lot of every year I enjoyed it.
Yeah. That Stanley Cup 86, right? And it's funny, when you get there and you win it, you're like, oh, we'll get back here again. You think, right? Oh, yeah, we'll get back here. And you like, how grateful to have been able to win that one Stanley Cup. And here in Montreal, Henry has 11, Conway 10 Stanley Cups. This one got 4, this one got 6, this one got 5. And I still walk around today and people say, hey, Chris, good to see you. Hey, how many cups you got? And I always say this. I go, 1. They go, only 1? I'm like, fuck you. Only 1. If you fucking knew what it took to get that one, son of a bitch. People are so spoiled here, right? They're spoiled.
Yeah, until it happens, you don't. There's so much needs to go into this, like health, luck, all of it. Like the one in the '98 when we lost with Philly, we lost the 4 straight to Detroit. The Detroit won their first one, and we started at home the first 2 games. We walked through the teams the first 3, Chris. It was the easiest thing we had. Lindros and the Leclerc line, but we were just steamrolling people.
Yeah.
But we had about a week off, and I started to see, and I was telling the guys, I said, guys, it's going to go by really fast. We need to take one shift at a time right from the beginning, because before you know it, someone is winning the thing. Yeah. So I was unfortunate. I was with Eric Desjardins. We were like our top D pairing, I think, at the time. And I broke my foot at the first game and the finals. And then I was on the crutches, and I was seeing the Philadelphia Flyers deteriorating internally. When you've been there a couple of times, and then you realize how lucky and how good and it takes the Army to win it. You know what I mean? So it is really special to have at least one, Chris. We can say that, right?
Yeah.
Who was your D partner? Who was your D partner in Montreal?
Well, I was lucky. I was playing with Big Bird, Larry Robinson, the first 4 or 5 years, and we were roommates, and we laughed a lot. Larry's
God, he took care of you, right? Oh God, what? How comforting was that to know Big Larry? Because he was, he's like a father to all of us, and probably more so to you, but he was to me too. He's like that guy you looked up to. But to roommate with him, and then be on the ice with him. Like,
Well, it was incredible, but Larry was so convincing that as a very young guy, he said to me, "You should live in the same area where I live." So I go, "Where do you live?" And he goes, "About 50 minutes out of Montreal."
mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay." So I went there. I bought a house then. You know what I mean? So we were driving together, 50 minutes there, 50 minutes back. He did not have to go on the morning skate, but I did. So twice, 50 minutes. You calculate. Calculate. I go like, I got fucked on this. You know what I mean? And then you guys gonna like this one here, which how life is unfair sometimes. So I'm driving one time after the game with Larry and he and his pickup truck, and somehow we got into what my salary was the first year. So I told him, at the time it was not open like it is now. So I told him we almost had an accident because I was making more than him.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy, right? So I go, "Oh my God." So then Serge calls me back and he goes, "You cannot tell people how much you make." All this stuff. But it just, it was, Larry was one of the, I was lucky to have someone like this because he told me right away when things were going well to him. He was telling me, "Kid, make sure that you don't read a paper one way or the other in the city. You know what I mean? Just stay in the middle somewhere.
Just come by this house way far away."
I realized really quickly it was not a great idea. I was late in the practice several times.
Yeah. So you go on Buffalo, Philly, Tampa, and it's time to retire. 2001, you retire. You played 19 games your last season. You played over 1,000 games, which is incredible. Good on you. Here's this skinny little kid who came in the NHL who no one thought he'd last. You play 1,000 games. You're durable. You didn't take any shit from anybody. You stuck up for yourself. Your teammates, you were right in there. You always stuck your nose right in there. And it's an impressive career, no question. Your second career, you went on. When you first retire in 2001 there, what are you thinking? What am I going to do next? We all struggle with that as athletes. When it's over, we got to find our way and what direction we're going. How'd you find your way and what'd you end up doing right away when you get out of hockey?
Chrissy, I had a lot of concussions. As you know, like I was running to Greeny the other day in the old-timers room here in Montreal. First time I see him after like 30 years. And he was always telling me, "Kid, you don't have to go in that corner like that," But I didn't listen. So I had a lot of concussions and everything else. So I was, by the time I retired, I was done. I broke my neck in Philly. Then I played for another 4 years. So I was done. Like my body was just like, it was done.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to just really refocus and just like really work on just to feel normal again. And then all of a sudden I got a phone call from Robert Lang and Pavel Kubina. They said that we going into our contract here. Can you do our deals? So I said that's something something I might like. So I said like let me see if I can do it. If I'm I know I can talk at times, but I don't want to promise you something that it will make no sense. And all of a sudden it snowballed. So I recruited 3 or 4 guys from Europe who work for me. And we started to do like the training camps and just basically giving the knowledge of the young kids. So I built my own agency. And I did it for about, like I say, 14 to 15 years after that. So I was representing quite a few players. It was fun. Then at one point about, I would say 4 or 5 years ago, I did not like it any longer because maybe because I did it for a while and I'm not one of those people who will lie to the clients and just tell them how good they are at times and all the time. And, the games change, you know what I mean? The parents were much more. So then eventually I let that one go and and I enjoyed the transition. I had kids at the time that were young. They were into tennis, and about a year and a half later, after I retired, I started this company, and it kept me extremely busy. And I think for us athletes, we need our scheduling. We need our things.
Right, Tim?
Yeah.
You need your meal money.
Yeah.
Here's
yeah.
your room key.
Yeah. Be here at 8. Go take a piss at 8:10. Video at 8:20. Yeah, I missed that. It's hard to create your own structure.
Well, I think I'm living also sober life. I did not go to the rehab. I'm living sober life for the last 7 years. It's the best thing I ever done.
Yeah.
I think you guys both do the same. And then you realize how wonderful that is. You know what I mean? To see the days every day without a hangover, or you just
clarity,
and everything else. And but it takes about several years before we learn and come to that conclusion. You know what I mean? So the routine is something that is crucial, and it makes you successful no matter what you do, because your life is successful. You know what I mean? So the way I look at life now, Chris, after so many years and so many experiences and living in so many different places and being fortunate.
You've had an exciting life, no question, right?
Not boring. Let's like my father said, when you're around Peter, it's never boring. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I was going to ask to go back real quick. Is you you got the story you left. What did it mean to you to win a gold medal in Nagano?
There you go.
You know, it was probably the ever best thing happened to that country. And just think about it, how crazy that is. Like, I defected because we were under a Russian regime. So we were hating Russians, you know what I mean? For no reason. Some of the players I play with are great guys, and, but the regime, basically, we hated it. You know, so it's in you, it's this and that. So we go to play in the Nagano, but the first tournament that they allow the NHL guys, you know what I mean? So I see half of the team from Europe. And the reason why I went is because Ivan Hlinka, the guy we're talking about, was the coach. And he was a dear friend of mine for all my life. So he calls me and he says, I need you to come and play. And before that, I said I will never play for Czech Republic ever, because of all the people who were in the system before were still there, but it has changed. So I went, and it was amazing. I think the celebration and everything else, I didn't go back because I went straight back to Philly. But when I saw the celebration, the country never experienced anything like it. And I was not a goal scorer, and I got lucky to score a goal.
You scored the winning goal, right? In the final game.
Yeah. So it was like, put it to you this way. Did I feel like I was real Czech? Yeah, some ways you do. You from there, you know what I mean? But the pride and Ivan and the 2 weeks we experienced and going through US, going through Canada, you know what I mean, and all that stuff. So it was a great memory.
So you get out of the gym. That's awesome. Like scoring that only goal against the Russians. I mean, it's like, see you later. It's so cool. It's so cool. And good on you, Pete. Because, you look at your stats, you weren't a goal scorer. You're more of an assist guy and a puck mover and a great, you were an elegant skater. And
but Chris, stop it! I'm gonna drop it.
No, but you were elegant. I think that's the best way to explain your skating style. You were elegant. You're like a swan on the ice. So,
what did they call me in Boston? What was what they call me in Boston all the time?
What they call you? Peckerhead?
No, chicken neck or something like that.
Chicken neck or something. Yeah. They call you chicken head or something.
Yeah.
Fuckers. So you get out of the agent business and you become co-owner and director of hockey operations at Lausanne Hockey Club in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that? And are you still doing it, or what's going on?
No, you know what? I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge. We went there, and in the beginning, the two partners were two billionaires. One of them, many billions, the other one, few billions, right? So I was the poor guy in the house, you know what I mean? So it was not only about hockey, it was about also the arena, it was about the concerts, it was about the structuring of the academy and everything else. And we bought it from the Canadian group out of Toronto. The guy went belly up, I think, and so we got involved with this with a vision of creating great academy, a lot of stuff. We ran into the first 2 years into COVID, obviously, that did not help.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy it. But unfortunately, it got short because of politics. As always, I'm not a guy who argues with people. I learned how to be diplomatic at times. But if I don't believe in what I do, then I'm out. You know what I mean? So we inherited a team who was in the B League and A League and everything else. A great area, great fan base some ways, brand new facilities. But I was running too many things, Chris. I was running the concerts, all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to get good people, it's difficult. And then when you're working with two guys who really don't care about the money until it costs a bit more than it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But we were still always under the projection of the 5 years and all that stuff. So when we came out of the COVID, we threw 5 or 6 great concerts immediately because I've been fortunate enough to be friend with a lot of Live Nation guys. So we had a system that it would have worked perfectly. But unfortunately, the team in the year 3 did not start off well. And I never, I can put it to you this way, what I learned in Switzerland, it's a beautiful country. I enjoyed it, every minute of it, the journey and everything else. I cannot say one bad thing, but I realized what racism and basically racism and hate that I never experienced. Like this.
In what way? In what way?
Well, we saved the team, this and that, and I obviously we were making changes because we inherited the team with a big payroll, and the
who was the racism against and the hate?
Against when you're not from there, like
okay.
I played there.
Yeah.
I played in Lugano and Biel.
Yeah,
that's the best answer right there. If you're not from there,
and you know, like. It's always like this. Like I was not surprised by it because if you go any European countries and everything else, if things don't go well immediately, even when I came here into North America, fucking call me or this.
Yeah.
But it's different because the North Americans, they take you in for some reason. If you prove yourself that it's very different. And what I find there is that for what I believe that they are, and I just couldn't understood it. Like, but the media, like Chris, there was a guy that just writes for one of those local bleak. It's like the gossip thing, right? So after several ways, he tried to insult certain things and everything else. And I met the guy and I said, I'm not talking to you ever again. You know, like you just fucking wasted my time. Yeah. So the guy took an initiative to just go after me day in, day out, convince the fans and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm sitting there in year 3, and the fucking fans are putting flags out like Svoboda needs to get out because he traded our favorite player. The guy couldn't fucking play hockey, but you know what I mean? But he was one of theirs. So they're all pretenders, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying I've done everything right. Yeah, that's not what, but everything was an aspect of what I feel, and we could have really built something incredible there, especially in concert sites. I brought Sting, God Malay, the Kendrick Lamar, so we knew that it was, but all of a sudden, the billionaires they want to be popular too. You know what I mean? That they don't like to be like involved in this. I said, guys, either we have the balls. And we stick by it, and within a year and a half to 2 years now, we're going to be laughing because I'm going to bring 50 to 60 concerts a year. That will really create the whole aspect of the academy and everything, so it will feed itself. And they just, for some reason, the 2 politicians, the local guys, they come in and they had their speech, and it made 0 sense, and they all of a sudden started to believe that. So I said to him, it's coming down to either my group buys you guys out or you guys do it on your own. There's no way of, once the trust is gone, it's gone. You know what I mean? And in sports nowadays, Chris, you cannot, people try to wonder why certain franchises don't win for so many years and this and that, because there's no consistency. You need to go through pain for a while. Yeah. But in the new world, now we want everything immediately now.
Yeah.
And what I find that most of the people that are in higher positions right now, I can say I'm wealthy enough not to do anything in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I never suck up to anybody. I would never be a friend because you can do something for me. But I'm loyal, and after so many experiences that you have, you know what's right and what's wrong. I know there's a new era of players. You need to be kind to them. You need to explain that to them the right way, and you need to make them grow into themselves. But one thing you cannot be in life is dishonest. Because you know what? How can you learn from something when you cannot tell the person nice way or many different ways that we need to change the course of actions for us to be successful?
Yeah.
Right? So it comes down to that, and so I let it go, and for good reasons. What's happening to me with right now, but. But I don't regret it. It was a great experience. I knew that if we would have stuck around for a longer period of time, we could have created something incredible, for entertainment standpoint. I learned tremendously. I learned one thing, though, that it's really difficult nowadays to trust someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the people who have the most time are usually the biggest shit disturbers. Mm-hmm. The ones who don't do very much, and they every day have an agenda how to fuck it up.
No, I mean, I was an import player there, Knux, and I sucked. And when you're an import that sucks in Switzerland, it is awful. Like, I mean, they'll just. I remember we'd do interviews. We'd win like a game 5-1, and the first question they would ask me was like, "You didn't score." I'm like, well,
damn it, and you for sure you learn one thing. Like that's what I see. It's still that the game did not. The management is trying to do eat right, train right. There's so many ways you can train, but if you're happy between your ears, and if someone gives you the support and those difficult times. That's what you need. That's eventually is going to come with you, right? Because when the trust is not there, doesn't matter from what generation you come in, you will never excel. So I brought great imports over there, and it takes time because they come, they feel it's going to be easy. They need to readjust. It's the same thing as coming back, and you need to introduce them that the Swiss players are maybe probably not as talented, but they like the country. When you tell them to be there, they will stay there until the bus will hit them. You know what I mean? So, but they're in shape. They can skate, and they compete. But eventually, the talent of the North American guys will take over. But you need to support them for a while. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing in Montreal, Chris. You know what I mean? If you would listen to every fan. And I think Serge was genius in that.
No, Peter, that's so true. Yeah, I just felt like you're right, spot on with like as an import player in Switzerland, a beautiful country.
Yeah,
it was like they would fake be like, oh, welcome, and like we're happy to have you, but then they're waiting for the first game you don't score. Like they just want to
100%, and they actually kind of happy, and it's a small time mentality. I don't think they are bad people.
No.
But it's just that's the way they are. You know what I mean? And they celebrate you, but it's still, if you're not from there, they will show you the most. They think they are better than any country in the world.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
but it is a beautiful place, though. Lausanne's a nice little city, huh?
It's amazing. Like I enjoyed every minute of it. The location, it's the lake. I still get a lot of good friends. You know what I mean? I find some good people there. But I don't blame them. That's how they grew up, and it's the environment of don't change too much, just follow the rules, and it's very different from what I believe, So
where do you live now?
I live in Montreal. I still have a house in Lausanne. I still
you do?
yeah. I've got a house in Montreal, and my daughter just now, we find out that she's got a lymphoma about a month ago. So she's in New York, so I'm going to spend with her in the next 6 months, you know.
And they were tennis players. I was reading you were down at Saddlebrook there in Florida for tennis and all that.
They lived in Saddlebrook. After I retired, we stayed there for about another 5 years because I didn't want to take them again out of their environment, you know what I mean? So it was wonderful, yeah.
Anyway, Peter, so awesome. I want to wish you nothing but the best moving forward and good health to Jessica.
Thank you.
I know you're going through a difficult time right now.
Yeah.
And my prayers and thoughts will certainly be with you and your family on that, no question.
Thank you, Chris.
Make sure you say hello to Alex from us. And
I will for sure.
Good stuff, buddy.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.